Just before I start, I would like to say thank you to everyone who watched my last video. It did way better than I hoped, and I wish that trend continues. But now back to the video. English high-speed trains often, shall we say, frowned upon for being terrible. There are only a few routes in the UK where frequent high-speed trains run. However, since I had enough time to criticize UK trains in the last video, today I would like to focus on the positives and explain the history of high-speed trains in the UK in detail and discuss exactly why UK high-speed trains are lacking behind. Our story starts off before what probably many of you would think to be the start of high-speed trains in the UK. It goes all the way back to 1938, in fact. There was already a competition going on between UK and Germany to build the fastest trains possible using the limited technology they had back then. Trains back then were still completely steam engine powered. Britain had held the speed world record for many years, but the Germans finally beat them with a high speed of 125 miles per hour. One English railway engineer called Nigel Gresley wanted to take the trophy back, so he started designing the Mallard, which is a steam locomotive that still holds the world record for steam locomotives today at a top speed of 126 miles per hour, which is the speed that most high-speed trains in the UK go today. The Mallard contained many fundamental features of most trains today, including aerodynamic designs, which allowed it to reach these high speeds. However, if you want to study more about the Mallard, I would recommend searching up other videos, as there are many that can provide more detailed information on this extraordinary train. We now move on to 1963, where engineers wanted to make trains even faster, aiming for top speeds of 155 miles per hour, to compete with other countries such as Japan. It was named the APT, not the one that you are thinking of, but it meant the Advanced Passenger Train. You see, the main problem with high-speed rail in the UK was not the trains itself, but the rails. This was because most rails in the UK were built for slow-speed trains, so when the rails needed to curve, the slow trains had no problems getting around these curves. However, if you have ever played with Lego trains, you know what happens when a really fast train goes around a corner. Now, it was mostly for passenger comfort that was the issue, and not derailment. However, it was clear that high-speed trains did need some new tracks, as the corners of these tracks needed to be angled to balance out the forces and prevent the train from derailing. The only problem was British Rail did not have the sort of money to build these new tracks, so they found a solution. If you can angle the tracks, you could angle the trains themselves. Each carriage was designed to have a tilting mechanism, powered by gas turbines, as the trains had moved away from steam now. However, a gas crisis in 1970 made them have to switch over to overhead power lines in the end. Unfortunately, even though the APT was a great idea, negative media coverage and financial issues made it a failure after they were brought into service in the 1980s. At the same time as the APT, British Rail also invested in what they were thinking would be the temporary solution to this issue. It became known as the Intercity 125, also known as the British Class 43, which was a diesel-powered locomotive which did not have the ability to tilt, so the tracks that it ran on did have to be modified. It reached top speeds of 125 miles per hour, as suggested in the name, and showed that high-speed rail was still possible with relatively little infrastructure modifications, as other countries had to undertake to provide high-speed rail. First used on the Great Western Main Line between London Paddington and Bristol Temple Meads, the temporary solution to British Rail's high-speed train problem would carry on being used on passenger services until 2024, when ScotRail retired their fleet of Intercity 125s. The model was used on nearly every single UK train operator during this time, as it trailed the Mark III coach, which it used to carry its passengers. The train also still holds a record for the fastest speed ever recorded on a passenger service operated by a diesel train, which was 144 miles per hour in 1985. After the success of the Intercity 125, British Rail invested even more money into an improved version of the train, the Intercity 225, also known as the British Class 91, which was engineered to go at 225 kilometers per hour, not miles per hour. But that is still 140 miles per hour. The train was powered by overhead power lines and could easily be upgraded to tilt like the APT was originally planned to, although they were capable of reaching 140 miles per hour, but due to safety concerns they were eventually limited to 125 miles per hour after their entry into service in 1989. The Intercity 225 was operated while trailing the Mark IV type of carriage behind it, and the type of train is actually still used today by LNER on the East Coast Main Line. So that concludes part 1 of this mini-series about the history of high-speed trains in the UK. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and check out my channel and other videos I have.